This episode contains candid conversations about terminal illness, cancer, grief, and mortality. We also discuss anticipatory loss, end-of-life planning, and emotional experiences related to invisible illness. These topics may be distressing or triggering for some listeners. Please take care while listening and prioritize your mental and emotional well-being.
For the haters, come on, do it now or later. Whoa, yeah. It don't matter what your name is, share your story, we'll be waiting. For the haters, whoa.
Welcome back, everyone, to For the Haters. Today's guest, Haley, is here to have a conversation that many people shy away from, one about life, death, and what it means to truly live when facing an incurable illness. Haley is a brain cancer patient, and while sharing her story has been therapeutic for her, she also realized that it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But the reality is, we're all going to face mortality at some point. So why don't we talk about it more? She's here today to open up about her diagnosis, the emotions that come with it, and why we need to stop being afraid of sad stuff. This conversation is about resilience, perspective, and finding meaning in every moment. Let's get into it. Haley, thank you so much for being here on For the Haters. I am really looking forward to this conversation, so I just wanted to let you know I appreciate you reaching out and just being here and being willing to talk about a subject that I honestly never see anyone talk about. So.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. If you could just give me a little background about yourself before we get into the thick of this conversation. I love that you have cats. People are probably listening, but they don't have visuals. And if you don't have the visual, you should be jealous because she has cats.
Yeah. I actually have 3 of them, so
we stand cats up For the Haters. So.
Yeah, good.
All right, give me the inside scoop to who Haley was as growing up as a child.
Growing up, I was very much outgoing, which is interesting because I wouldn't consider myself that as much nowadays. But I do miss that free spirit that I was as a kid. I think we all kind of had that. I grew up in New Brunswick, which is on the east coast of Canada, for any listeners who aren't aware. Now I live outside of Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is just a province away, and I've been here for the past 10 years. And yeah, I live with my husband and our 3 cats, just living life.
And Haley, when was it that you started to recognize, or what was the reason that you even went in to get checked? What did that journey to that diagnosis look like for you?
So that journey to the diagnosis was a pretty quick one. It was actually completely out of the blue. I was working from home in December 2020. I worked a corporate job, but because of COVID at the time, I was working from home. And I found myself suddenly unable to speak. I was talking to someone on the computer and my words weren't making sense. It was like I knew what I wanted to say, but I couldn't get the words out no matter how hard I tried. And sure enough, I knew something was wrong. So I texted my boyfriend at the time. He's now my husband, but I texted him and he knew by looking at the text that it didn't look right. So he rushed home, brought me to the hospital. And a few hours later, they told me there was a mass in my brain. So it kind of like my world went a big 180 just in a matter of a day. It was pretty crazy.
And what was that immediate reaction like for you?
The immediate reaction, I think I went numb. It was kind of like, the best way to explain it is my whole world paused and the rest of the world just continued. And I just kind of like thought about everything in my life, every person in my life, like, is my life meaningful? I've kind of, gone through all of that, but in that moment, that's the best way to explain it.
If you're comfortable with, how old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was 31 when I was
Okay.
diagnosed, and I'm 35 now.
And that must be just really difficult at that. I mean, I feel like that's the prime age of your life, right? Like
Yeah.
you just make that transition out of like pain, right? Like your 20s just cause a lot of pain to your life. And I feel like
Yeah.
your 30s is when you actually start to live and
Yeah.
find like happiness and joy.
Yeah.
So for something like this to happen in that just core moment of life must be just another layer, right?
Yeah.
Like to all of this. How did you start sharing this diagnosis with loved ones and what were their reactions like?
Well, at the time, the only person who really knew was my boyfriend. It was a week before Christmas, and I honestly didn't share the information with
Mm,
anyone right away because oddly enough, I was more worried about ruining their Christmas. Nobody wants to share that kind of news at that
mhm,
time of year. So it did take a little bit, but there were people in my life, like my sisters and a couple of my closest friends, that knew that something was off. And I ended up sharing with them a little earlier. But I
mhm.
think I would say I waited about a month or so just to kind of
Wow.
process it myself and kind of understand what it was and what I was going to have to deal with and all of that. I didn't want to put it on many people right away until I knew.
What does that holiday look like for you, right? Like, are you able to enjoy it at all, or is it, is this just constantly what you're thinking about, or are there ever moments during that time? I don't know if you were spending it with family that you were able to disassociate almost from the reality of what that is.
Do you mean like the Christmas in 2020?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that year there was a lot of restrictions between provinces,
Um,
and where I'm originally from, New Brunswick, I knew I wasn't going to be
mhm.
able to make it home for Christmas that year.
Yeah.
So it made it kind of easier to separate myself from everyone at that time. I probably shouldn't have, but it's what I needed to do at the time.
Mhm.
Um, but Christmases since then, I've definitely been able to enjoy. I'm more grateful that I'm here for those Christmases and I'm not, I've had time to process the information and accept the diagnosis, accept the prognosis, and not dwell on it too much in the moment.
Mhm. What is that diagnosis? What is that prognosis from a medical place?
So I was diagnosed with a grade 2 astrocytoma. For those who aren't familiar with an astrocytoma, I know I wasn't before, but it's basically
Yeah.
it's a type of brain tumor that is typically cancerous, and it kind of begins to spread through the brain. Even if you have surgery to remove it, there's still tiny little pieces that, like microscopic pieces, that'll never be taken out. Of course, there is no cure, so you just have to hope for the best and hope that they don't take over as soon as they're supposed to, I guess.
Is it something that you just continuously monitor? Like, how does it change your day-to-day life?
Yeah, so I get MRIs every 12 weeks to check the progress. I have had 2 awake craniotomies since my diagnosis 4.5 years ago. And right now I'm currently on a drug, which is like an inhibitor. It's supposed to stop the growth for as long as possible. It is a pretty heavy drug that can be hard on the liver and stuff like that. So I get blood work every 2 weeks to monitor that. So far, the drug has been really great in terms of the fact that it's actually shrunk a little bit, and
Wow.
it's just a pill that I take every morning. I don't even have to go in for treatment or anything. So
Mhm.
basically, we're trying to hold off on chemo and radiation for as long as possible, but ultimately, chemo and radiation is what I will require as a treatment. It's just there's going to be a lot of side effects to that because of the location of the tumor. So we want to hold off as long as possible.
Is there an expected time that you're able to hold off of that for?
We just have to wait and hope that the drug continues to work. So it's basically like as long as the drug works or as long as my body can handle the drug is however long I'll be on it. I've been on it since August of 2024 right now so far.
Okay, so it'll be a year in a couple months.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you ask questions to your doctor, like if their expectations, like do you set expectations for yourself? Do you just take it day by day? Is there enough studies and understanding of this cancer of knowing what like the future is?
There's a lot of studies for sure. Brain cancer is very underfunded in terms of research, but there are a few other cancers that people are in the same boat, right? From what I'm noticing is there's a lot of young people being diagnosed with this type of tumor. And I only know because I have a great support system of people from all around Canada, the US that I talk to every day. But I know some people don't like to ask questions because they don't want to know the answer, but I need to know the answer to everything. So when I was first diagnosed, they did do a biopsy on my tumor and they did tell me what it was, and I was really excited because they said it was benign. So my first thought was like, oh my God, it's not cancer. And then they kind of ruined my fun and told me, well, it is cancer. So it's kind of weird, but since then it has become cancerous, unfortunately, but they did tell me to expect that. I think my initial meeting with my neurologist is kind of what woke me up, or my initial meeting with my neurologist after my first craniotomy. I asked her, what are the chances of this returning? And she said, oh, 100%. She was very brutally honest with me, which I appreciated, but she did tell me that this will be what kills me unless something else kills me first. So it was a very hard pill to swallow, but it definitely got me thinking more about my life and my purpose and, why I'm here, what I'm supposed to do, and dealing with that kind of trauma, I guess.
What do conversations look like with your boyfriend then, now husband? This is a very obvious, serious thing. When you choose to spend your life with someone, they also are going to have that as like a part of their life as well. So how do conversations look with him?
So when we first found out, we were only together for a year. So it was still a very new relationship. So at that point, I was, honest with myself about the fact that we're both young. He does not have to deal with this if he doesn't want to. He can go and find somebody that's healthy and not have to worry about taking care of someone and not have to worry about, if they're going to be alive next year. I guess you could say I tried to push him away in thinking that I was helping him, but he is honestly just a really good man, and he was in it through sickness and in health before we even got married. So I'm very grateful for that.
Do you have conversations constantly? Are there conversations about worry about the future, about the plans if anything does happen? Do you have those conversations? Are you preparing yourself for the unknown?
Yeah, for sure. If anything, I think I try to prepare him sometimes because I've accepted it, and people around me don't always want to accept that this is my reality. They see that I'm doing so well. Like if you look at me, you would never know that I have brain cancer, but if they saw my scans, they would be like, oh, okay, she has brain cancer. So it's in my face every day. It's in my husband's face every day because I do talk to him about it a lot, but he's big on trying not to dwell. He doesn't want to worry about the future until it happens. And he's big on staying positive, which I am too, but I'm also realistic to a point, right? Like this is something we have to prepare for. So I do kind of have like end of life requests. Like I have a book and everything that I've prepared. But yeah, I think it's pretty easy with him because we live every day and we live together every day and talk every day. But yeah, I think it's more other people who don't want to accept the reality or believe it, I guess, until they see it.
Do you find it overwhelming, or what kind of emotion, if any emotion, do you have towards, it's almost like you have an invisible illness, right? Like I don't know if you have any day-to-day things that happen, if speech is still like an issue for you sometimes, or if there's different symptoms that you face, but do you find that there's just some feelings towards that of people not knowing, like you can be walking down the street, right? Or meeting a stranger and they just have no clue that this is something that you're dealing with?
Yeah. It's given me a lot more empathy too for other people because I know when I guess there's certain situations I'm very sensitive. Like it was an admin worker at the hospital that I went to for an appointment the other day, and she was being really, you could tell she was having a bad day, but nobody going to the hospital is really having a good day, right? And finally, she had asked me a question about my medications, and I told her that I was on a medication for brain cancer, and her tone completely changed when she talked to me. Like, wow, I've never realized like that's who I was dealing with. So
As if it made a difference, right? Like
yeah. It kind of made me mad. It made me really emotional actually afterwards. Like I had a good cry because it's like, why can't people just treat me nice no matter what, not just because I have brain cancer. So part of me kind of wishes that I've never told anybody for that reason, because now I'm like, are people only around me because I have brain cancer or vice versa? So yeah.
I can understand that as well. I've dealt with my fair share of frustrations of customer service people in situations where it's like, oh, okay. You mentioned, people often get uncomfortable when you talk about illness, about your illnesses. Do you have any thoughts to why that might be? Like, why do you think that is?
I think a big thing is fear. People are afraid of death, even though it's a natural part of life. I think it's also because people are afraid of saying the wrong thing. I personally never knew how to talk to people before when they were going through cancer. And I've known people in my past who have passed from cancer. And it was always a struggle in my mind. Like, am I saying the right thing? Am I saying the wrong thing? And now that I'm in this seat, I know that people have good intentions if they're talking to me about it or asking me questions. I'm happy to answer questions rather than people just assume or be afraid.
What are some of the most unexpected challenges that you have seen just living with brain cancer?
Oh, the fatigue is a big one. I think a big challenge, and this is maybe just in my head, maybe me putting blame on myself, but I feel like I'm afraid that people don't believe my diagnosis because it is an invisible illness. I almost feel guilty sometimes for how well I'm doing because there's a lot of people in my situation, same diagnosis, same amount of years, who are not doing well. Some people who have already passed. And here I am, and people are like, what are you talking about? that's not you. You don't have that diagnosis. And now, of course, we see a lot of documentaries of people who are faking these diagnoses just to get financial support or sympathy or attention, which that's a whole other story that just makes me so angry.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, those are some of the big things.
And obviously you've mentioned it a couple times, but your perspective has changed. You've become more empathetic for people. Are there any other things that stick out to you about maybe your relationships changing or even recognizing, small moments more?
I definitely appreciate the small moments like never before, like a full moon, a nice sunset, a squirrel crossing the road with a little nut in his mouth, like every little thing just brings me joy that I would have just ignored before. And sorry, what was the other part of the question?
Well, first and foremost, I think that you need to get a tattoo of a squirrel with a nut in its mouth. Yeah. Add
A
it to
great
the
idea.
list. Just how your relationships around you have changed.
Yeah, that's definitely been the biggest piece. I know that relationships in your 20s and 30s change significantly regardless, which I find so incredibly hard because I love and appreciate my friendships so much. But yeah, they've significantly changed since my diagnosis. Partly my fault. Like I've cut a lot of people out of my life, not necessarily because they're toxic or anything, but because I know that I need certain people around me to help me heal and be the best version of myself, which is ultimately my goal right now. And I used to be the type of person that was friends with anyone and everyone. And now I'm more about quality over quantity. But yeah, there's a lot of people that I would have never expected that have come back into my life since my diagnosis and supported me like never before. But then there's people that I would have expected to be there right from the start who I haven't seen at all in the last 5 years. And of course, with brain cancer, I have to wonder or assume, like, is it because I have brain cancer or is it because of other things going on? But I just have to accept and appreciate the people that I do have close to me who want to be around me.
Yeah, and like I was saying before, it's just, and you just mentioned it as well, that timing of life is just so difficult,
Yeah.
right? Like you're outgrowing friends, you're growing yourself, you're settling into careers, you're settling into relationships, you're building your own families, and
Yeah.
it must be overwhelming, especially for someone that has clearly like a lot of empathy and just like realization to understanding feelings of the thoughts that go through your mind when you're navigating these relationships. Do you think that you pushed people away at all from trying to protect like some people of like from having to deal with it as well?
Yeah, 100%. I have for sure. Especially when it comes to people around me who have health anxiety. Um, it was almost like I was trying to reassure them or tell them that it was going to be okay, but I don't know that it's going to be okay. I have to be realistic and say, like, hey, this is my prognosis. Like, I could die in 6 to 8 years, and that was 4 years ago. So I don't think I could really handle much of that. Even my husband, when we were first diagnosed, I remember he got right into the hospital bed with me and started crying. And I told him, I need you to be strong because if you're not strong, then I'm going to be breaking down all the time. And I know that's not really fair to say to him, but it's helped to have people around me that are strong. So,
Yeah, I mean, other people's like feelings are obviously completely valid, but like it's
yeah.
not your responsibility to make people feel better of the
Yeah.
situation too.
Yeah.
Like that's not, it's like an unnecessary weight for you to carry as well.
Yeah,
What are
I'm not a trained therapist, so but I highly encourage them.
What are some things you wish people would just ask instead of avoiding?
Basically all the questions that you're asking me right now. I love just having conversations about life and meaningful conversations. I get so bored with small talk and talking about the weather. Like, what's the point? I want to know about you and why you are the way you are, and what you think about the earth and the universe and all that stuff. You know what I
And
mean?
what else is out there?
Pardon?
I said, and what else is out there? The
Yeah.
universe and what else is, yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I'm happy to answer absolutely any question. There's nothing that someone could say that would offend me. It would be different if it was a stranger that came up to me, or someone that I haven't spoken to in like 20 years and just came and asked me all these questions. It's like, well, what do you want to know that for? But
What are the intentions behind
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And sharing your story. I mean, you just brought up therapy. Like, do you go to therapy? Do you find therapy in
Mhm.
sharing your story?
Yes. I've seen like 7 therapists over the past 5 years,
Oh, wow.
which kind of makes me feel a little unhinged, but it's not that any of them ended on bad terms. I think I got what I needed out of each of them, and it kind of went into a lull, because at the end of the day, I think sometimes what I'm looking for is for someone to tell me that I'm going to be okay, and no therapist can do that. Yeah, it helps, but it also helps to talk to real people, not someone who's just being paid to talk to me.
Do you feel like you switch therapists because you reach a point of them knowing everything up into the current point of your life? And then it's like, well, what do we have to talk about? And then the next person, you get to start kind of that conversation over where,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, that definitely has a little bit to do with it, because by the time we reach everything and they give me pointers, and I can definitely say that I've taken on so much from each therapist that has given me, different skills to cope and everything. But after getting through everything, it's kind of just me crying and feeling sorry for myself, and sometimes I have to do that, but not too often.
yeah. What are some misconceptions that people have about someone living with a terminal illness?
Ooh, I think the biggest thing is like we're not dead yet. We might have a terminal illness, but I still feel very much alive. Um, and going back to relationships, it did make me realize that before in friendships, I looked for people who were down to have a good time, party, be young, celebrate things. But I wasn't necessarily looking for friendships to, deal with the real stuff with. Sorry, I forget the question.
What are like some of the biggest misconceptions that people have?
I guess the biggest thing is like include your sick friends, even if they can't always make it. Like, I'm definitely not as fun as I used to be, and I'm happy to stay in and stay home, but I think the biggest misconception is that someone with a terminal illness is not dead yet, and you still have time to spend with them.
Yeah. What do you think that as a society we can do better, having conversations about death and dying?
Um, Well, I think it's funny because we make such a big deal about birth and the beginning of life, and we do so much planning around it, but we don't do it so much when it comes to death, and those are both natural parts of life. So I guess it's hard because I don't think that we should dwell on it necessarily, but
Yeah.
we can't be afraid of it. We have to accept that it's a natural part of life. We obviously want it to happen very, very far away in the future, but there still should come a time when we're planning or preparing for that. And some of us it's sooner than later.
Yeah. I think that like I've always said that I have a very interesting relationship with death. It's not something that I've ever really feared. I lost my grandparents, which never like held any weight to me, just because like it was, they lived their life. It was a part of life. I lost my best friend in 2016, and losing him, it was this just realization of life, just how valuable it was.
Yeah.
Obviously, like I was sad and I grieved. I wish that never happened, but like how you can't make changes, you don't have the opportunity to make those changes. So all you can do is kind of keep living.
Yeah.
Like I lost my dad last year too,
Yeah.
which he was 68, 69, and which is still too soon of that. But
Yeah.
even my relationship with that death as well was, I feel like, in a pretty healthy way. And I was having conversations after he died with people, just how, death should be taught in school. There should be,
Yeah.
more education just around it, of coping mechanisms, of grief, of just recognizing that death is a real thing. It's not, you keep saying it, that it's inevitable. Like everyone is going to die. We cannot avoid death. It is something that happens. And so why do we just prepare ourselves? Like, why do we set ourselves up for failure in a way that just constantly hurts and like puts people into a cycle of just like not living their life anymore because of it, right?
Yeah. I totally agree with you for sure.
Yeah. And
Because I know as a kid, I was terrified of death.
yeah.
Looking back, I didn't know what anxiety was when I was a kid, but I would have anxiety attacks regularly. And I remember asking my mom, am I going to die?
Mhm.
Funny enough, we're all going to die. But if I was
Yeah.
taught that in school, or, if parents and adults were comfortable talking about that with children, then it's a little less scary and it's more natural.
Hmm.
So,
How do you personally find peace or acceptance kind of in moments of fear or uncertainty?
um, I I find peace knowing that I don't think our life is over fully when we die. I've become more spiritual in terms of knowing that even though my body might be gone, my spirit will still be here.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I feel like I connect more with my loved ones who have passed because I'm like, whoa, I understand what you're going through. I wish I could wish I could have talked to you before, but I feel like I get signs from them all the time. As crazy as some people might think, I know not everybody has those beliefs, but
Mm-hmm.
that's ultimately what brings me peace.
I think signs are such a beautiful thing, and I've had multiple conversations on both sides of the fence with people who believe in them, who don't believe in them, who like some people have negative feelings about them, but
Mhm.
I love signs. Like I love giving myself like little tidbits of joy throughout life, and it could be, and I was just saying this, it could be something so simple, right? Like I think I see my dad in rainbows. Obviously, I'm going to spend the rest of my life seeing rainbows. Like
Yeah.
that's not something that is out of the blue.
Yeah.
But in those moments that I see them, it brings me joy. Like it brings me just like this sense of remembrance and this sense of love. I think that I see my grandmother in streetlights turning on or off. Like I don't know why that is in my head, but
Hmm.
like anytime I'm driving down a road and a street light turns on or turns off, I'm like, oh, hi, Aya. Like just like giving that like sense of like recognition to that, whether it's all batshit crazy or not, right? Like
It doesn't
if
matter.
if it brings me an ounce of joy,
Yeah,
like that's and I think people should feed into that because again, life's too short to just,
I agree.
not try to have those little moments.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt you at all to think positive towards
Yeah.
something.
Are you comfortable talking about like this aspect of spirituality? I think it's interesting. Obviously, like religion is a pretty big conversation for a lot of people. I don't know if you grew up religious or if that changed at all, or if you've just always had that more spiritual side to you than like believing in a certain God?
Religion was never pushed on me as a child. I know both of my parents grew up somewhat religious, as in they were Christians and they went to church every Sunday as a kid. I was not, but I remember as a kid being curious, and I asked my parents to take me to Sunday school
Yeah.
because I remember kids at school going to Sunday school. So I went a bit and I was like, yeah, this is okay. But since then, I find that I feel like there's more to it, but I can also agree that there's something good in every religion. And we can all agree that there is a similar goal in mind. The similar goal meaning like there is something more after death. We can all agree that we believe that and we're all trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I've gone more towards the spiritual side. And I heard a quote the other day which resonated with me so much. And I don't want to offend anyone by saying this. I don't mean any harm, but it said, religion is for people who are afraid of hell, and spirituality is for people who have gone through hell. And I was like, whoa, I feel like that's how I feel.
I feel like we would be friends if we lived closer to each other,
Yeah.
if we knew each other earlier in life. I'm on that same journey as you. I think that the world and like the universe is bigger than religion, and I think that religion does its purpose for a lot of people, and I value that thought and that the good that comes from it. I'm on the same page as you. Like, there's just so much out there. There's so much. Afterlife is a lot bigger than I think that anything here in this world could even understand.
I hope so. I hope we're right.
And if we're not, we're not.
Yeah.
I'll face the consequences then, right?
There's not much we can do. We can't control
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. What does the relationships now look like with the people that are closest to you, like your parents or like family? Do you have to guide them in how they can better support you at all? Do you have open conversations? Do you avoid the conversations with them, or do you have them in selected moments?
I guess it depends. I would say that, my family's a little scattered. Some of us are closer than others. But I think a lot of it is just taboo to talk about, or that's how it feels. Like,
Yeah.
and not to talk bad about any of my family members or anybody I know, but I'll give you an example. I went to somewhat of a family reunion a couple months after my second craniotomy, so I was still kind of healing from that. And I had a couple people at the family reunion were pregnant, and I watched everybody go up to them and saying, "Oh my goodness, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Look, the baby kicking." And it's like, I've got a half shave on my head, and there's a big scar, and like not a single person has come up and asked me how I'm doing. Not that one person is better than the other, but it just shows how uncomfortable people truly are. And sometimes all you want to, sometimes you don't want the attention, but sometimes, you do want people to ask how you're doing or, ask about what you've gone through. It is healing and therapeutic in a way to talk about it, I think, personally.
How people can better support you? Is it like being more open to having conversation? Is it checking in on you? Is it, or just like kind of living life normally?
That's a good question. I can't really tell anybody what the right thing is to do because I don't even know, but I was actually thinking about that earlier, and I'm a firm believer that love heals. And as cheesy as it sounds, I know that I've been super lucky to have the unconditional love and support of my husband these past 5 years. I have no idea where I would be if I didn't have him by my side loving me the whole time through the good and the bad. And I think a lot of people who ask what they do or what they can do to support their loved ones going through a really hard time is just love them. I feel like all you need to do is love somebody. That sounds very hippie-ish of me to say, but I truly believe that.
No, I think about it all the time of like the fuel it gives me when I feel loved by my wife, my family, my friends.
Yeah.
If I recognize just a little small ounce of effort it took someone to like text me or call me or ask me to do something or just any small amount of just effort, I can just feel like my jar just fill up more, right? Like
Yeah.
every small ounce of just love of check, like it could be, just as small as checking in or, I like to, when I think about someone or someone crosses my mind, I like to shoot them a message and just say like, just thinking about you, right? Like sometimes people aren't in a place to have a full blown conversation and that's totally fine. And
Yeah.
I try to set it up so that it can be just as it needs to be as just want you to know that I'm thinking about you.
Yeah.
I think the world would be a better place if more people showed their love and just showed their thoughts to those people around them.
Yeah. I agree for sure. And love looks different for everybody. So,
Yeah.
um, but it puts a lot less pressure on people. Like what does love mean to you? Then treat that person with love, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
If you could give any advice to someone who was just diagnosed or newly to this journey, what would you say?
I would say look for your community. There's a big community out there. Look for stories of hope. You're always going to see the scary stories. Those are going to be the ones that are going to be, shared the most. But there are
Mhm.
some really happy stories and positive outcomes. But also just, find your community. There's an Instagram page that um, I think it's called Oh, You're So Tough. And she kind of makes funny, relatable memes for young cancer patients. And I find it so great to like kind of understand what other people are going through and connect with them. And ultimately, that's how I connected with my friend Kayla, who made a group chat. And there's about 10 or 20 of us girls in a WhatsApp group message that just talk every day because your family and your friends aren't always going to understand what you're talking about, especially if you have dark humor. Not everyone gets that, but you can say it to someone else going through it and they'll be like, yes, totally. And they won't look at you with like a sad look on your face, like, oh my God, why would you say that? Right? You don't have to get
Yeah.
this big reaction.
Mhm.
So yeah, find your community for sure. Know that there are lots of medical advancements happening. I'm proof of one right now. I'm on a very new drug that's working positively for me so far. And yeah, your life isn't over.
Yeah. What are some things that you do just to prepare yourself in whether that is writing journals, writing, you have a book you said that is preparing that lists the decisions that you want. Do you make videos? Like, do you take videos? Do you take pictures?
Yeah, writing is definitely a big thing for me, and it was before my diagnosis, but I kind of stepped away from it. I was in the corporate world. I was more worried about making money. But when I lost my speech, I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much to say. And there could come a day where I can't say it anymore. I mean, some people might be grateful for that because then I'd stop talking, but but I'm actually in the process of writing a book.
I was
And
just sitting here thinking, like, you need to write a book.
thank you. Thank you for saying that. I actually
I,
have had two, um, what do you call it? Mediums who have told me that I'm going to write a book.
you should.
And I need to stop doubting myself. Like, it might not be for everyone, but I think that it could help somebody. And I think that my purpose now, with the scare of not being able to speak and losing my speech and forgetting simple words and stuff like that, it's time for me to get my words out as best I can and hopefully help somebody else in the future. And then
Yeah.
hopefully another book 20 years later that, says I survived, but we'll worry about that then.
Yeah. What a permanent way to leave your mark,
Yeah.
right? Like we often, like, a lot of people just kind of will always just get for, like, we don't know our great grandparents. We don't know, like,
Mhm.
people don't always leave marks. And I think that something like that, you sharing your story in a book that continue on forever, I think is such a beautiful thing. And even for like your family to have, right? Like,
Mhm. That's what I think about the most. I have 4 young nephews, and I
mhm,
hope I get to see them grow up, but if I don't, they'll have something of mine with maybe a little piece of advice that they can take along with them through their life
mhm.
and with their kids, and yeah.
I have, there's this one book that I really, and I don't know if you already have something in mind, so you can tell me to fuck off. But like, I'm sitting here thinking, I've read When You're Ready, This Is How You Heal. It's a bunch of shorts. So it's not like a book full to full, but like, it's a bunch of shorts. So each story you get like a value from, like, and
Mhm.
everyone takes it for what it is and compares it to your life, to their life at the time.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, like, that's like, when I think about wanting to read a book of yours, like, that is what I want to read. Like, I want to read like parts of something where,
Yeah.
like, I can take that and like run with it and figure out how it relates back to my life. Like, I see like fucked up, like, dark humor in some parts of
Yeah.
it, right? Too. So
Becky, you're
I don't know if
freaking me out because I've wrote the outline, like chapters and everything, but
yeah.
that's similar to what I have in mind. But I've been big into poetry, and
Yeah.
a lot of it's like kind of emo poetry, like I'm
Yeah.
having a sad day, I'm gonna write about death. but,
Yeah.
but I want to kind of add those in, like a poem in here and there, to little short stories that kind of, yeah. But that's so funny that you say that.
Even if it's a short story about a squirrel with a nut in its mouth, like,
Enjoy the little things, folks.
you tell me when this book is published, and I'm going to be the first one that buys it.
Thank you. I will.
So,
It was actually my New Year's resolution this year because I've been talking about it for years, and my goal is to have it done before the end of the year. So,
out of all people that I think, like, I feel like you should know better than to wait.
yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I was
Yeah.
just, the antidepressants have kicked in, so I'm ready to go.
You're back doing its job.
Yeah.
I love that. Haley, what do you hope, like, listeners would take away from this episode? What are some of those main points?
Oh man. Well, of course, life is short, but not to sweat the small stuff. Like, I see people with, road rage every day, and I'm like, that person could be driving home from the hospital after saying goodbye to their loved one. Like, you
Mm,
never know what someone is going through. So just be kind and get along. Not everyone's going to vibe with everybody in this world, and that's okay, but you don't need to ruin their day or ruin their
mhm,
life. Um, and for me, my words, I feel like maybe there was a reason my speech was taken from me. Maybe I need to be more meaningful with my words and mindful of what I say to people, because you never know what could stick with someone.
mhm,
You just want to make people feel good. There's no harm in making someone feel nice.
mhm. I
Yeah.
love that. And if someone wants to reach out to you and connect with you, where would be the best place to? Whether that is social media or just an email?
Sorry, my cat is looking for
Oh, it's
attention.
okay.
I do have social media. I have Instagram. My handle's at Haley MW with an underscore.
Okay.
It's private because I don't have the mental capacity to deal with negative comments. But you can request to follow me, especially if you're a newly diagnosed person. I'm always happy to lend my support however I can and answer questions and help however I can.
I always put contact information in the description too.
Okay.
So if you're listening, I'll add an email or social or so people know they exist, because you don't have an I in your name, and most people would think that
That's
you would have an
true.
I
Yeah.
in the name.
Common
So
misconception.
little things. Any final thoughts? Any messages that you want to share?
I do have a message that I want to share. It's actually my friend. I have a friend, Tiffany Crow. She was from Michigan. She unfortunately passed away last October from brain cancer, but she was such a nice, positive light, and she always told everyone, just buy the tickets. So, money comes and goes, but time is not forever, right? You could be gone tomorrow. So if you're wondering like, oh, should I go on this trip? Should I do this fun thing? Do it, because life is short and you only regret the things that you don't do. So as Tiffany would say, just buy the tickets.
I love that. I live my life fully to that.
Good.
So
Love it.
I can resonate. And my final question for you before we wrap up is, if you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
Ooh, you are a badass. Yeah. I don't think I'd tell her what I'm going to go through. I wouldn't want her to know that. But yeah, just you can make it through anything.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Haley, so much for your honesty and vulnerability today. Conversations like these aren't easy, but they are so important. Your perspective, resilience, and openness to talk about the things that so many people avoid is truly inspiring. To anyone listening, if you've ever felt afraid to have these conversations, let this be a reminder that avoiding the hard stuff doesn't make it go away. Life is messy, unpredictable, and often unfair, but there is beauty in every moment. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time on For the Haters.
Thanks, Becky.
Thank you, Haley. Thanks for listening to For the Haters. Don't forget to connect with us on socials, follow, like, and share to help more people find this community. And remember, they're not alone. And if you haven't yet, join our Facebook group. We'd love to have you there. The more we grow, the more lives we can impact.
What's your name and share your story? We'll be waiting.